The cockpit of a P-38 Lightning at 25,000 feet over the Solomon Sea should be a sanctuary of American engineering. In late 1942, it was a grave, not because of the enemy you could see, but because of a silent killer buried a fraction of an inch beneath the pilot's right hand. A deadly invisible lag. Pilots were coming home in body bags, not because they lacked courage, but because they lacked time. A Japanese Zero could flip 180 degrees in a heartbeat. A whirling dervish of death. The American pilot would yank his yoke, muscles screaming, brain screaming, commanding his twin engines to roll him out of the line of fire. And nothing would happen. Just a sickening, mushy dead zone in the controls. That infinitesimal wait for the steel cables to tighten, to bite, to finally pull the aileron, was the difference between a daring escape and a burning wreck tumbling into the endless blue Pacific. This is the story of how a desperate mechanic, a man who wasn't supposed to be an engineer, picked up a piece of illegal piano wire and rewrote the entire air war over the Pacific. This is the story of Technical Sergeant James McKenna. The year is 1943. The place is the fetid, rain-choked hell of Port Moresby, New Guinea. To call this an air base is a kindness the mud and humidity never gave it. The P-38 Lightning was supposed to be the ace up America's sleeve. She was a radical beast, a twin-boomed Silver Devil packing 450 caliber machine guns and a devastating 20mm cannon clustered in her nose. She could climb like a rocket and hit like a sledgehammer. Lockheed's geniuses in Burbank, California, had designed her to be the high-altitude interceptor that would dominate the skies. But engineering in a clean, air-conditioned California factory is a world away from the reality of a tropical war zone. The designers never anticipated what the soupy, salt-thick air of the South Pacific would do to the Lightning's nervous system. Here lies the fatal flaw, a secret disaster buried in the technical manuals. The connection between the pilot's control yoke and the massive ailerons on the wings was not a modern hydraulic system or an electronic wire. It was a physical, mechanical linkage, a labyrinth of push rods, bell cranks, and long, snaking steel cables that ran through the fuselage and through the booms. In the freezing, dense air of high-altitude Europe, these cables remained taut. But in the sweltering, saturated heat and humidity of New Guinea, physics turned into the aluminum airframe of the P-38 expanded. The airframe stretched, but the steel control cables, made of a different material with a different expansion rate, did not. The result was cataclysmic. Slack developed in the system. When a pilot initiated a high-speed roll, the first few inches of yoke movement did nothing but take up that slack. It created a delayed response, a control hysteresis that engineers call a dead zone. To a fighter pilot in a swirling dogfight at 300 miles per hour, a dead zone of 1/10 of a second is an eternity of terror. The Imperial Japanese Navy's A6M Zero was a deadly ballet dancer. It was stripped of armor, stripped of self-sealing fuel tanks, built purely for agility. In the hands of a veteran Imperial pilot, a Zero could turn on a dime. When a Zero latched onto a P-38's tail, the Lightning pilot's only escape was to roll violently, using those powerful engines to torque the aircraft into a dive that the lightweight Zero couldn't follow. But the lag betrayed them. The American pilot would slam the yoke to the left. Wait, feel the mush. Wait for the cable to finally stretch taut. In that moment of hesitation, the Zero's cannons would speak. These were not just mechanical failures. These were slow, mechanical death sentences. Morale began to plummet. A machine built to dominate was becoming a coffin for some of America's best young men. Enter Technical Sergeant James McKenna. He was not an officer. He was not a Lockheed test pilot. He was a crew chief, a man whose uniform was permanently stained with hydraulic fluid and whose hands were permanently scarred by busted knuckles. McKenna was the kind of guy who knew an airplane not by the schematics, but by the way it bled fluid and the sound it made when it was dying. He watched his friends taxi out, and he watched the smoke columns on the horizon that signaled they weren't coming back. The official response from the rear echelon and the Lockheed representatives was a bureaucratic shrug. Field modifications were strictly forbidden by Army Air Corps technical orders. The manuals were sacrosanct. To alter a flight control system without a mountain of paperwork and engineering approval was a crime. It was a court-martial offense, but James McKenna operated under a different command structure, the law of saving lives. In the dim light of his canvas maintenance tent, with the perpetual drip of rain on stretched fabric, he began to conduct a secret war against the slack in the cables. He knew he couldn't change the laws of thermal expansion, and he couldn't redesign the aircraft's skeleton. He had to find a way to absorb the slack automatically, to keep constant tension on the cables so the pilot's hand and the aileron moved as one. He rummaged through the salvage piles, a grim museum of shattered aircraft that had already paid the price for this defect. He needed something strong, flexible, and resilient. He found his solution not in a spare parts catalog, but in a shattered crate that had once held a standard Army-issue upright piano. The high-tensile steel wire from a piano is a miracle of industrial consistency. It is tempered and drawn under extreme pressure, capable of holding massive tension without deforming or snapping. McKenna, operating on pure mechanical intuition, took a length of this piano wire. His hands, accustomed to the brute force of wrenches, now performed delicate surgery. He devised a system of pulleys and a tension spring, but the heart of the device was a simple, curved cam arm anchored by the piano wire. He mounted this makeshift inline tensioner assembly to the fuselage rib, right at the access panel where the aileron cable ran. The principle was brutally simple. As the aluminum airframe expanded and the steel control cable went slack, the tension from McKenna's coiled piano wire spring would instantly take up the gap. The moment the pilot moved the yoke, the circuit was already closed. The dead zone was mathematically erased. It was an illegal device. It was unsanctioned. It was a hack in the purest, most desperate sense of the word. If it failed in flight, if the piano wire snapped and jammed the aileron control, McKenna would be blamed for the pilot's death and sent to the stockade for life. He ground-tested the modification on a grounded, battle-damaged bird that was being cannibalized for parts. He wiggled the yoke, measured the travel, and felt the instant, solid resistance for the first time. The slack was gone, but the ground is not the air. The true test would require a pilot willing to bet his life on a mechanic's crazy idea. That pilot was a young, tired-eyed first lieutenant whose name is lost to the fog of a war, but whose courage was absolute. He knew the odds. He had felt the lag nearly kill him the day before, the tracers missing his canopy by inches. McKenna quietly approached him by the revetment and showed him the rough, hand-fabricated device bolted inside the fuselage. "It takes out the mush," McKenna said. "No more waiting." The lieutenant, desperate and trusting the sergeant with his life, nodded. The next morning, a flight of lightning scrambled to intercept a swarm of Bettys and their Zero escorts over the Coral Sea. At 20,000 feet, the sky became a checkerboard of contrails and fire. The lieutenant's P-38 was bounced by a Zero diving out of the sun. Instinct took over. He threw the yoke hard over. For the first time in months, the lightning responded. Not sluggishly, not a half second later, but instantly. The twin booms snapped into a crisp roll, the sun glinting off the silver wings as the heavy American fighter pirouetted like a lightweight. The Zero pilot, anticipating the standard lazy P-38 response, overshot and was met by a head-on burst of 50 caliber fire. The Imperial fighter disintegrated. The lieutenant landed back at Port Moresby with a look of shock on his face. He didn't tell the intelligence officer about the piano wire. He told the other pilots. The word spread through the squadron like gospel. In the cover of darkness, under the weak glow of blackout flashlights, other crew chiefs approached McKenna's tent. There was no official memo, no repair order number. It was a whispered network of salvation. Ground crews began stripping piano wires from any abandoned instrument they could find. The mechanics became a silent underground, retrofitting the entire fighter group with a life-saving hack. The aerial balance over New Guinea shifted perceptibly. The P-38's kill ratio began to climb steeply, not because of new tactics, but because a silent, anonymous man in dirty overalls had defeated a design flaw with a piece of wire. The ingenuity of a battlefield mechanic is often a ghost that never makes it into the corporate history books. But eventually, the dramatic improvement in combat performance was so stark that it demanded an investigation. A representative from Lockheed arrived at the front lines, initially to lecture the mechanics on following technical orders. Instead, he was confronted with the evidence: a fleet of illegal P-38s outflying the factory standard models. Instead of ordering the devices removed, the Lockheed engineer quietly inspected the makeshift tensioners. He drew sketches, measured the angles of the cam, and tested the tension of the piano wire. He returned to Burbank not with a reprimand from McKenna, but with a stolen idea. Lockheed soon issued a service bulletin authorizing a factory-designed cable tensioner kit. The design, engineered by professionals with blueprints and stress analysis, was fundamentally identical to the device cobbled together by a desperate sergeant in the jungle. The piano wire solution wasn't just sanctioned, it became standard equipment on every single P-38 rolling off the assembly line. The legacy of James McKenna is not a Medal of Honor citation, which he never received. It's not a promotion to officer, which he never took. His legacy is the thousands of hours of combat flight logged safely by pilots who never knew his name. It is a testament to the reality that systems are saved not just by the generals who command them, but by the dirty-handed wizards in the field who understand that the rulebook is useless if you are dead. The next time you see a pristine P-38 Lightning in a museum, with its polished skin and gleaming guns, look closely at the mechanics of the wings. Hidden behind the aluminum, you are looking at the ghost of a piano wire. It is a string that plays a silent note of defiance, a note that sounds like a stolen second, a regained life, and the simple, unbreakable resolve of Technical Sergeant James McKenna.